Alright, well, now I'm in a different room. Happy?
Quite. You're on your way to better understanding this game.
What, because I moved to a different place?
Yes.
Alright, you know what? I'm just gonna ignore you and finish this analysis. Stupid voice telling me what to do.
I'm just trying to...
Not listening. So,
please.
Anyway, let's talk about authorial intent. Authorial intent is, on a basic level, the intended meaning of a work of art by its creator. Now, within the world of literary criticism, there's a decent amount of debate about exactly how important this concept is. Some would argue that the intention of a given work's creator is vital when trying to determine what that work actually means, whereas others would argue that the reactions and understanding and feelings of the people who are experiencing that work is all that matters. But I think it's pretty clear that the creator of a work is the one who gets to decide what it means. I mean, I can't just go read Victor Hugo's Les Miserables and decide that it's a work of Satanist propaganda or something. I mean, aside from that just being completely ridiculous, it also reflects falsely upon Victor Hugo, and that's not okay. So similarly, we shouldn't be asserting our own choices in a game over the intent and the vision of the game's creator. We can't just ignore what a creative mind is trying to tell us through a work of art. I mean, that's the entire idea of art, is expressing a creative idea by way of a creative craft. What's even the point if we're just going to replace whatever they're trying to tell us with whatever we happen to be feeling at the time? Thankfully, the Stanley parable understands this, and it's reflected in the game's various routes. The game is all about your interactions with the narrator, and whether you'll choose to follow his lead or completely break all the plans that he's laid out for you carefully. And as you disobey the narrator, the game paints your actions in a variety of decidedly negative ways. Firstly, disregard for the narrator's plan is selfish. In a culture where we turn the TV on in the background, talk over movies with friends, read the cliff notes instead of the actual books, and even watch people play video games to see their reactions instead of actually playing the game for ourselves, it can be pretty easy to forget just how much effort artists put into their work. The creation of art is a means of expression, a way of communicating your ideas, values, and struggles to others through a creative medium. And the best works of art are generally the ones that do this through thorough detail, persuasive storytelling, and careful direction. A story isn't just a random series of events after all, it's carefully and lovingly crafted to make a meaningful experience. Trying to undermine what an artist is trying to say through their work of art is incredibly disrespectful to all the effort they put into it. And the Stanley parable portrays this quite strongly in a few instances. In one route, the narrator even gets incredibly sad that you've so completely twisted this experience that he worked so hard to provide you.
I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it.
Doesn't that reaction seem a little extreme?
Ignoring. Usually, the narrator is played for laughs. He can, after all, occasionally be almost as weird or annoying as mine.
Hey.
But endings like this show that you're definitely taking someone else's hard work, all of the effort and the vision that they put into this, and completely ruining it just for the sake of your own enjoyment. That's pretty much the definition of selfishness. And secondly, it's vain and conceited. Many people think that video games are nothing more than power fantasies, and while that's a woefully misinformed position to take, it is true that a lot, and probably even too many video games, focus on accomplishing little more than simply making the player feel empowered. When talking about player choice in video games, we often fall into the trap of thinking that the player's power is an important element of interactive storytelling as a whole. I talked a bit about this in my episode a good while back on Dragon Age 2. So often we think that if a game is going to give us narrative agency, then our actions had better have a huge effect, because we want to exert control over the situation. But that control comes at something of a cost. It can dull the message intended by the game's creator. If you make choices that run contrary to the message that they're trying to send, you can seriously weaken that message. And heck, there are some games where even giving you complete control over how the story would turn out would in and of itself mess up what the story is trying to say. Like Telltale's The Walking Dead series comes to mind as a great example of that. In the Stanley parable, when we make choices contrary to what the narrator wants us to, it can often feel like we're sticking it to the man. You know, like, sure, he said to do that thing, but whatever, I don't have to do that thing, I'm gonna do the opposite of it. We gamers sometimes don't take orders too well, right? But in our defense, in all fairness, it can be pretty fun to act in opposition to the game's expectations of us. But ultimately, all that accomplishes is weakening the intended experience. And this is shown in wonderful sarcasm when we decide to jump off of the moving platform.
Here, I'm not your enemy. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
This can relate to the issue of selfishness, for sure, but it also touches on a bit of a different problem. The immature desire for control over a situation that isn't yours to direct. Like if you were making an awesome sandcastle and someone else just showed up and started completely redoing it. You wouldn't like that, and neither does...
Your mom.
Oh, shut up! I should also note that our interruptions in these situations are never as good as what was originally planned anyway. So the game pretty clearly paints your attempts to take over as a negative thing, disrespectful to the narrator and ultimately accomplishing little more than sabotaging what could be a wonderful experience, all because you wanted to have your own fun and exert your own influence. I think the narrator said it best at the end of a route where he eventually just leaves you to your own devices.
He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world.
So, yeah, I think it's pretty clear what this game is saying. So, I mean, that does kind of make this analysis a little shorter than they usually are, but, I guess it can't really be helped. So, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to check out...
Oh, come now, you're getting lazy.
Excuse me?
There are more nuances than that, and you know it. This game is an artistic exploration of the concept, not a persuasive essay.
Alright, fine. There's probably something else I can find to look at here. Well, however much the game may espouse this concept, there are some drawbacks to too much freedom on the part of creative minds, so maybe we could see if the Stanley Parable has something to say about that. Or, alternatively, I could just go off on a little branch here and talk about some of the other little nuggets of wisdom that the Stanley Parable has to say about interactive storytelling.
Wonderful. Now, go through one of these doors.
What? Again? Why can't I just stay in one place for this?
The game professor didn't know why he had to stay on the move, but something told him it was important.
Only you. You are the only person who has said that, and also, why are you referring to me in the third person again?
He had to make a choice.
Alright, fine. So alright, one door leads to how the game goes into the problems of too much authorial freedom, and the other is just into other random tidbits the game talks about. Which to choose, which to choose. Oh well, if I don't choose in the next few seconds, at least the links are in the description.